Greetings, my dear wizards, witches, muggles, and squibs. Today, our journey takes us into the shadows, where courage, skill, and a dash of good luck are the ingredients needed to survive. We're talking about a group of wizards and witches who fear nothing. The Aurors. Yes, well, they're the ones who do the dirty work. Exactly. Aurors are the most skilled at combating the dark forces, those wizards and witches who threaten the safety of our world. For centuries, they've been the first line of defense against the most dangerous dark wizards. Did you know that the word Auror comes from the Latin term aurora? It means dawn, like the light that rises after a long, overly dark night. Because behind every Auror, there's a story, a rigorous training that transforms a young wizard into a true magical war machine. And today, we're going to discover what it means, the challenges, the responsibilities, and perhaps even a few little secrets. And what have I told you? That Quentin Pendragon is nothing more than a former Auror, banned from the ministry for his impeccable misunderstanding of the rules. Politicians, them and their bloody boring plain-coloured ties. But in the end, without the dismissal, I wouldn't be here revealing the secrets of the wizarding world to you. So wands at the ready. Today, we're hunting dark magic. Today, we're discovering the world of Aurors.
Long before the word Auror ever echoed through the marble corridors of Level 2 at the British Ministry of Magic, there were those who kept vigil in the shadows, silent sentinels, resisting the lure of darkness. Since the very dawn of magic, when the first witches and wizards carved runes into stone and whispered charms to the wind, some have bent their gifts toward power, corruption, and destruction. The dark arts, in their purest form, are as old as magic itself. And so inevitably, there arose their counterforce, those who dared to stand against them. They were not Aurors, not yet. They bore no names, no insignias, but they were warriors, shamans, druids, priests, oracles, guardians of what was sacred and what was meant to remain hidden. Some were honored, others hunted, most forgotten. From Mesopotamia to ancient Egypt, the battle between light and shadow has raged since the very beginning of time. As city-states flourished and philosophy blossomed in ancient Greece, so too did a dangerous ambition among witches and wizards, a hunger for knowledge that often blurred the lines between creation and corruption. The thirst for power grew fierce, and with it the shadows of dark magic stretched further. Giants, once solitary and untamable, were lured from their wild realms by pacts of blood, becoming instruments of terror. Forbidden rituals were carved into the stone beneath the holy temples, weaving ancient spells to bind creatures and control minds. Entire islands, such as Aea, fell under the rule of twisted enchantments, with Circe at their helm, her magic distorting both human and beast. But the darkness did not go unanswered. As the shadows deepened, many witches and wizards began to gather in secret, exchanging spells of protection and forming alliances, loose yet united in purpose, to push back against the tide of corruption. They had no names, no titles. They held no formal training or official sanction. They were not yet Aurors, but in spirit, they were the first protectors. Among them stood Andros the Invincible, a wizard whose power was so formidable that it is said he conjured a Patronus of colossal size, one so vast it could repel even the fiercest giants without struggle. His Patronus became a symbol for all who fought against the darkness, not a weapon of destruction, but a manifestation of hope. He showed the world that the dark arts could be resisted, not with cruelty, but with purpose and resolve. Though they lacked titles or official sanction, these early protectors laid the first stones on the path to what would one day become the Auror Office, a legacy of vigilance and courage that would endure through the ages. As centuries passed and empires rose and fell, that legacy would continue to inspire those who stood against the growing darkness. When the grandeur of Greece faded and Rome itself crumbled, giving way to the chaos of the Middle Ages, the dark arts surged to unprecedented heights, threatening the world as never before. During those shadowed centuries, the use of the three most powerful curses, those which would later be known as the unforgivable, became widespread. They were seen as necessary, even justified, a legitimate form of defense against enemies both magical and mundane. In this grim and harrowing age, within the wizarding world, fear and hatred did not suppress the dark arts. They nourished them. Far from being forbidden, they were encouraged, studied, and even celebrated by those who sought power.
Impressive.
Never before had so many dark wizards walked the earth at the same time. Merwin the malicious, Emmerich the evil, Egbert the egregious, Ethelred the ever-ready, each one bringing forth their own twisted vision of domination. One after another they unleashed curses, jinxes, and hexes the likes of which had never been seen before. Yet among them all, one name has been remembered and feared above the rest: Morgan Le Fay,
We can only
a dark witch
truly depend
of immeasurable power.
on ourselves.
A skilled animagus with remarkable healing abilities, Morgan rose to become queen of the island of Avalon, at the time one of the most secure and significant havens in the Western wizarding world. The dominance of the dark arts seemed etched in stone. But it is when the shadow reaches its deepest black that the light, in turn, shines brightest. If that chain of darkness was ever broken, it was thanks to the one we remember today as perhaps the greatest wizard who ever lived. Merlin, one of the earliest Hogwarts graduates, said to be a favored pupil of Salazar Slytherin himself, and the likely inventor of the Time Turner. According to magical historians, it was through this very device that Merlin traveled back across the centuries, altering the course of known history. He trained the young Arthur Pendragon and became the sworn nemesis of the one witch no other had dared to face. The legend of the duel between Merlin and Morgana echoes through eternity.
The great Merlin
Even now,
finally shows
it lingers in Muggle folklore. Merlin's deeds, his defense of the vulnerable, and his tireless battle against the dark arts to restore balance to the wizarding world. These sowed the seeds of what centuries later would become known as the Auror division.
Did you know that exclusive Spellbook Chronicles booklets are now available? Ancient volumes filled with secrets just like the ones hidden in the restricted section. But instead of hiding from Madame Pince, all you need is a click. This Muggle technology is amazing. Each booklet contains one of the most beloved stories from the series, enriched with exclusive images. So, what are you waiting for? Start collecting them all. Your support is invaluable. Not only will you enjoy the magic, but you'll also be supporting the channel, allowing us to keep bringing you the most amazing stories, like the one in this episode. So, enjoy the show.
Long before the Auror office became the well-oiled machine it is today, the fight against dark magic in Britain was chaotic, scattered, and frankly, rather dangerous for anyone involved. There were no protocols, no proper training, just brave or foolish witches and wizards facing curses with more guts than guidance. It all began to change under Minister Eldritch Diggory, ancestor of the late Cedric, who, seeing the rise of dark forces, probably tired of the paperwork, and obsessed with the deeds of Merlin and the ideals he had strived to uphold, launched Britain's first official Auror recruitment program.
Committees.
It was a bold move,
We require immediate
creating an elite magical task force
decisive action.
dedicated to tracking and taking down dark witches and wizards, not just reacting to chaos, but preventing it. Among the first to answer the call was a name that still echoes through the stone corridors of the ministry: Hephaestus Gore.
Gentlemen.
Fierce, sharp-eyed, and utterly uncompromising, Gore quickly became one of the most feared Aurors of his time.
As you wish.
His methods, effective, if a little excessive. But it was an age of rebellions, alliances between goblins and werewolves, and shadowy uprisings that threatened to tear the magical world apart. The Auror knew that responding with brutal efficiency was the only option. He wasn't just a hunter of dark wizards. He climbed the ministry ranks fast, stepping in as Minister for Magic when things got particularly messy. He crushed uprisings, reinforced Azkaban, and turned the ministry into a fortress of law and order.
No exceptions.
By the time Gore stepped down, the Auror office was no longer just an experiment.
Welcome.
It was an institution.
Gentlemen.
He retired a legend,
The Auror office.
battle-scarred and legless, his portrait still hanging in the headquarters, watching over new recruits like a silent warning. Across the Atlantic, however, the Auror tradition took root in a land much less forgiving. Long before the United States had a name on the map, the North American colonies were a wild, lawless place. Not just for muggles, but for witches and wizards too. The land was crawling with scourers, merciless bounty hunters who twisted the law for a handful of galleons.
Up there.
They sold out their own kind, trading witches and wizards to nomad towns in exchange for gold, or worse, using them like cattle to line their pockets. With no ministry, no law, and no order to speak of, criminals from all corners of the wizarding world came flooding into the new world, drawn by the chaos and the chance to make a name for themselves. Then, in 1693, in the wake of the burning embers left by the Salem witch trials, something changed. From the ashes rose the Magical Congress of the United States of America, MACUSA, a ragged promise to protect the magical community and keep the statute of secrecy intact. And leading the charge was Josiah Jackson,
It's time.
the first president of MACUSA.
Let them in.
A man who understood that a law without the power to enforce it meant nothing at all.
Ladies,
His first act?
gentlemen,
He formed a ragtag squad,
welcome.
a dozen souls who would become the first American Aurors.
200.
They weren't polished ministry recruits, not by a long shot.
That's my price.
They were survivors, outlaws in their own right, carving their way through a brutal land, ready to put themselves between the innocent and the growing darkness. Their names would be etched into magical history, not for the titles they wore, but for the price they paid. Of those 12, only 2, Charity Wilkinson and Theodard Fontaine, lived long enough to see their last days. But all 12 became legends in their own right.
Ah, there you are, my beloved viewers. Fear not, I'll be quicker than a golden snitch. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here for this episode of the Spellbook Chronicles. And if you think Quentin Pendragon is charming enough to deserve your generous support, you might consider leaving a like. And I highly recommend subscribing to the channel too, clicking the bell icon to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And why not, joining the channel to get priority access to every new video for just a couple of galleons. So, what are you waiting for?
You'd need top grades for that. They ask for a minimum of 5 newts, and nothing under exceeds expectations grade, I see. Then you would be required to undergo a stringent series of character and aptitude tests at the Auror office. It's a difficult career path. They only take the best.
Becoming an Auror has never been for the faint-hearted or the underqualified. In Britain, the path to joining the ranks of the Dark Wizard Hunters is one of the most demanding in the magical world. Candidates must first prove themselves academically, securing top marks in a range of challenging subjects:
3 minutes.
potions,
From now.
transfiguration, charms, defense against the dark arts, and more often than not, herbology. Only students with outstanding or exceeds expectations in at least 5 newts are even considered.
If you want to leave,
Then comes
do it now.
the real test,
What follows?
an intensive training program designed to push body, mind, and magic to the edge. Applicants are vetted not just for skill, but for discipline, loyalty, and character. A clean criminal record is all but mandatory. It's a path littered with dropouts and broken wands. Even those with the grades rarely make it through. Even after meeting the rigorous academic standards, the road to becoming an Auror is far from over. Those accepted into the training program face
Miss Thorne.
3 grueling years of instruction,
Your path as an Auror
trial, and transformation.
starts today.
They undergo a series of psychological and aptitude tests designed to assess how they react under pressure, because no spellbook can prepare them for the panic of a real duel or the weight of drawing their wand on a former friend.
We meet again.
Only those with unwavering discipline, courage, and composure move forward. The training is relentless. Recruits master concealment and disguise, learn to move undetected, and hone their skills in dueling in the dark. They face intense resilience training and a notoriously tough module known as Method in the Mad Eye, in honor of the one who is perhaps remembered as the most skilled Auror in history, Alastor Moody. Born into a long line of renowned Aurors, the Moody family, a pure blood lineage steeped in ministry service and battle-hardened tradition.
He's here.
Both his parents served as Aurors, as did many of his ancestors.
Stay sharp.
And from a young age, it seemed inevitable that he would follow the same path.
I'll become an Auror.
He came into possession of his wand before starting at Hogwarts, where he proved himself an exceptional student. His house was never officially recorded, though more than a few whispered Ravenclaw. But what mattered was that he left school with an impressive haul of newts and an even fiercer determination to serve. Like all Aurors, Moody endured the brutal 3-year training program, but he did more than survive it. He thrived.
There it is.
His rise through the ranks was swift, marked by unshakable discipline, razor-sharp instincts, and a refusal to look away when others might flinch.
Always check your flanks.
By the time of the First Wizarding War, he was already considered one of the Ministry's most formidable assets. Moody became the nightmare of Death Eaters across Britain. He captured many, dueled more, and left a trail of enemies in his wake, some alive, some not. His victories were hard-won and costly. He lost a leg, part of his nose, and eventually his eye, replaced with a spinning, magical one capable of piercing walls and deception alike. He became a living legend, half man, half arsenal. Paranoia took root, not without reason. Moody trusted no one fully, not even himself. He set traps in his own home, drank only from his personal flask, and kept his wand within reach at all times. But behind the grizzled exterior was a man of principle. He captured Igor Karkaroff alive after a 6-month pursuit, refusing to kill unless absolutely necessary. Even after retirement, Moody remained active, mentored younger Aurors like Nymphadora Tonks, and lent his expertise to the Order of the Phoenix. He was, to many, the very embodiment of the Auror ideal.
Alastor,
Gruff, relentless,
I require
and unwavering in the face of darkness.
your unique assistance.
Not polished,
Thought you might.
not diplomatic,
What's the damage?
but necessary.
And so, my dear wizards, witches, muggles, and squibs, we've explored the world of Aurors. Silent and tireless heroes who protect our society from threats we often can't even imagine. Their work is never done, and their fight against the dark forces will continue for generations. But like any true hero, Aurors know that real strength lies in keeping calm in the face of danger and never giving up. Of course, patience and tolerance for those tedious, long-nosed bureaucrats at the Ministry are equally required. I bid you farewell, my brave friends, and I'll see you soon. Always here, ready to guide you through new and fascinating mysteries of the wizarding world. Until next time.